What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. All right, check it out. Rebel Moon is coming soon. All right, coming up on this Friday, right? Tomorrow, actually, April 19th. Part 2 to Scargiver. And look, you guys all know how Rebel Moon did the first time around, okay? Looking at these Rotten Tomatoes scores, 21% by the critics, 57% by the audience. Audience is usually a little bit more forgiving than the critics. I gave it a 5 out of 10. I said it's a very mid movie. You know, I was being generous. I was being very generous. I tried to go back and watch Rebel Moon again, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle because the first time I saw it in theaters, I was actually one of the few that got a chance to check this movie out when it came out in theaters. No desire to see the second part. I don't even know if the second part is coming out in theaters, but no desire to see it in that case. Anyway, if it wasn't coming on Netflix, probably wouldn't watch it. But I did see that there was some potential with this movie. The problem is, of course, is this guy here, Zack Snyder, who just doesn't understand how to slow down his excess. You know, good visual filmmaker, love his visuals, man. Zack Snyder is a visual genius, all right? I think almost everybody can admit to that. But his problem is he goes excessive with his story. He doesn't know how to develop characters well. You know, so when you're talking about things that Zack Snyder has written, his characters always feel underdeveloped, like they haven't really been fleshed out very well. And that's the same problem with Rebel Moon. They give you a gajillion characters. None of them are fleshed out very well, with the exception of a couple of characters. And even those characters fleshing out is just kind of boring. You know, so that's the real main issue with this. But the reason for this particular video is because I popped up and saw this on Twitter. Zack Snyder says 6 Rebel Moon movies is a possibility. Yo, Zack, you might want to slow down, all right? Let's see if you can make one good Rebel Moon movie, okay? You haven't done that quite yet, all right? You made, in my opinion, a very middle-of-the-road movie. And this is the article that they're talking about. It's this exclusive on Screen Rant. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon franchise expanding to 6 movies in a new trilogy approach, says writer. All right, so this is an exclusive on Screen Rant. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon franchise is expanding to 6 movies in a new approach to the trilogy. Co-writer Kurt Johnstad reveals. All right. Rebel Moon franchise will consist of 6 movies planned as 2-part trilogies. Despite mixed critical reviews, strong viewership on Netflix may lead to future films. Rebel Moon Part 1 received strong viewership, paving the way for a potential 6-film saga. Yeah, it's really going to depend on that second film, though, right? It's going to depend on the old Scargiver. Or what's the viewership on this going to be like? Because nobody knew what the first one was, so nobody really knew what to expect. Everybody just kind of walked in. All right, let's see what you got, Zach. And then you could see the results here, all right? This 57% from the audience. This is not good, all right? This is not good at all. You know, it's not as bad as it could be. It's not as bad as a lot of people think it should be, but this isn't good either. So, yeah, when it comes to strong viewership for Rebel Moon Part 2, yeah, that's up in the air. All right, big time up in the air. I don't know how they going to pull that off. You know, I don't think a lot of people are going to come back and check for this. You know, they may check for it like down the line, like, man, I'll get to Rebel Moon someday, you know, but not today. You know, it's like, you know, what's coming out? Abigail is coming out this weekend. You know, so that's big. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, people to go to check that out. Spy Families coming out this weekend. It's like a lot of movies are coming out this weekend. And there's still stuff like Civil War in theaters and, you know, Ghostbusters and Dune and what's the other one? Godzilla Kong. So there's a lot going on, and it's going to be a lot that pulls away. I think the NBA playoffs is starting as well. There's going to be a lot of competition, in other words. I think Rebel Moon might be an afterthought at this point. But yeah, let's go ahead and see what this 6-film saga is all about. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon franchise is expanding to 6 movies in a new approach to the trilogy, a co-writer Kurt Johnstad reveals. Directed by Snyder with the script he wrote with Johnstad and Shay Hatton, the sci-fi franchise follows a young woman with a mysterious past who leads a rebellion against an evil galactic empire. Like, this was this guy's, like, take on Star Wars, you know? He wanted to do a Star Wars movie. He couldn't get it greenlit. Kathleen Kennedy was like, nope. So he said, all right, forget it. I'll go and do my own thing. And he transforms it into Rebel Moon. Part 1, The Child of Fire, was released on Netflix in December, and then Part 2 is coming up this Friday, April 19. There are already plans for a 3rd film to complete the trilogy. And see, here's what's weird about it, right? Is that he said this original movie, Rebel Moon, was really just one movie, but then it was too long, so they split it into 2 parts. So how are you going to turn this into a trilogy? You know, it was originally just one film, split into two parts. Like they actually get into it in this, and we'll get to that. But they split the original movie into two parts. Now you're just gonna tack on a third movie and then call it a trilogy. Zack Snyder don't know how to plan this shit out, and this is why these films often fail. Now, during an exclusive interview with Screen Rant, Johnstad revealed there are plans for a total of 6 Rebel Moon movies. Like, man, y'all need to slow all the way down with that one. The co-writer clarified it will still be a trilogy, but with each movie being two parts. Read his full comments below. So, all right, so here's what he says. So basically, we have everything mapped out for many, many movies. Beyond 3, Beyond 4. I will go on the record now. We figured this out all the way to movie 6. Now, if we are so lucky and fortunate enough to continue telling these stories, that is our hope. Netflix is interested, and we're waiting to see how these first movies go, but there is certainly a treatment for 3 and 4. You know, we've laid out very detailed. All we have to do is start writing. Actually, Zack has already started writing because he's like that. I think he's already written the first 30 pages of movie 3. So once we get the green light to start writing, if that happens, it'll happen fairly quickly because Shay Hatton, Zack, and I are pretty fast, and we've all done the work. It's not like, well, what about this? We know exactly what we need to do. I mean, that's good that he's, fast, all right, get him out, crank him out. But, does anybody care? Netflix, to me, they should have reined Zack in a little bit more. I think they allowed him too much latitude and too much just, free reign. Yeah, do whatever you want to do, Zack, and we'll go ahead and fund it. But the problem is that Zack has never been like that concrete, crisp filmmaker, okay? Like all of his work. You look at Zack Snyder's Justice League, man. That thing is just long, okay? It's like 4 hours long. And it's like, Zack, can you tell like a 2-hour movie? Or maybe like 100-minute movie, like, hour and 40 minutes. Can you do that? I don't think Zack can do that. And that's the problem. It's excess. He just goes too far in a lot of places. This was always going to be a trilogy, and this is well known. We've talked about this in the press already. When we delivered the first movie, it was 200 plus pages. So we're like, oh my God. Then we tried cutting it back to 135. I think we started cutting all the cool character stuff, and Zack's like, we need to go back. How do we do this? And then again, this has all been written about before, but then collectively we said right around here in the 90th page, if we wrote a cliffhanger, this is what I'm talking about. They took this 200-page movie, right? And then they split it in half. They threw a cliffhanger in, which is in movie 1 of the Gondival scene. If we wrote that, then we could break this into 2 parts. See, they made this movie into 2 parts. It was an original 1 film, okay? It was originally 200 pages long for the first movie, for 1 movie. And then they just said, well, let's just chop it in half. So how do you tack on a third movie and then call it a trilogy? It's really not a trilogy. It's not a movie in 3 parts or a story in 3 parts. You're telling one story in 2 parts and then you're tacking on a second story. That's really what it is. So I don't buy this. I think this is, again, part of the problem is that these guys have crafted this thing altogether wrong. They don't know the the end from the beginning. You have to know the end from the beginning anytime you're writing a story. You got to know how it ends. You got to know where you're headed to. And I think they may know, and they started figuring that out now. But this right here, this leads me to believe that, yeah, there's some shaky storytelling going on here, and we saw it in the first movie. So when I say 6 movies, it's really a trilogy with each movie being 2 parts. That's how we're thinking of it now. But again, a lot of things have to happen. Our ambition and what we want to give the fans don't always match up with the reality of the world's economy. Yeah, your ambition doesn't always match up with what the fans want. That's another thing that you got to consider, bro. But that's what we want to do. We want to give fans 6 movies or a trilogy in 2 parts each. Yo, I honestly, again, I don't hate on any filmmaker or creative trying to do their thing, okay? But what I think Zack Snyder needs to do is he needs to rein it all the way in. Know where this ends, okay? Know the ending, and then from that point, write the movie. Write these other movies or write all these other, series or whatever you're going to do with this. Write it at the back after you know what this thing is, because I don't think they know. I really don't think they know. They're kind of spitballing. They might have a map in their head, but they don't really know it all the way through. Personally, if I had to do something like a 6-movie series, I would write all 6 scripts before I went into production. I would write all of them. I would know exactly the story. Even if I have to go back and touch them up and rewrite them, I would write all of them first. So I know the story from beginning to end. I know how every character acts and reacts and everything. I would have all of that stuff written down. at least in a pretty healthy synopsis. Where, okay, I know all of the, different plot points. I know all of the shakeups, the moves, how this character turns, that character turns. I guarantee you they don't have that in place yet. A lot of this little 6-movie plan that they're talking about, they're spitballing. They're just making it up as they go. And sometimes that can work, but a lot of times that cannot work. There needs to be a plan. When you're talking about a 6-movie plan, there absolutely needs to be a plan. Johnstad reveals there are plans for a total of 6 Rebel Moon movies, though there is the question of whether they should actually happen. Rebel Moon Part 1, Child of Fire reviews reamed out of the film for its substandard story and heavy reliance on familiar sci-fi fantasy tropes. As a result, the film earned Snyder his worst Rotten Tomato scores of his career at 21%. The audience score is slightly better at 57%, but still is considered rotten by the review aggregator. Yeah, it's not a good movie. Like I said, I give it a mid-level score. I gave it 5 out of 10 because I'm sort of interested to see, okay, I just want to see how they wrap this whole thing up. I liked Ed Skrein, all right? I liked this guy's character, Ed Skrein. He's the reason that I actually like this movie. I'll be very honest with you. Sophia Botella and everybody else that was in there, I was like, Charlie Hunnam, like, I don't care. I liked Ed Skrein. Ed Skrein's character, great. He does a great job acting it, and I think the character is interesting. There's something there. And I want to see where this thing goes. That's the only reason that I'm even coming back to watch Rebel Moon, the Scargiver. And if it was in theaters, I wouldn't go check it in theaters. So I think Zack Snyder and his ambition, to write a six movies, you got to slow that down, bro. I mean, you got to really start focusing on, whether or not this thing is even viable, past the second movie. It's already in the can. Ain't nothing he could do about it. But if you do get an opportunity to do the third film, I would definitely make sure that you got 3 through 6 completely and utterly finished. Don't rush. Don't rush to the end. The Stargiver is the second half of the same story. It's difficult to imagine it making many significant improvements. Exactly. It's not going to improve. I expect more of the same, but again, I'm curious and I'm going to give it a chance. However, if Rebel Moon has one thing going for it, its viewership on Netflix. Part 1 received 23.9 million views within its first 3 days, but it's not going to get that this time around. It's going to lose interest just because it's, wasn't good the first time. And then there's a lot going on this weekend. So when it drops April 19, 20, and 21, we'll see what the numbers look like. I doubt it's going to be anywhere close to this. It might be half of this if they're lucky. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, if part 2 should receive a similarly strong viewership upon its release, then, maybe they get to another one, but you guys let me know what you think. I know a lot of you guys didn't really rock with Rebel Moon, just based on some of the comments on the channel. I just don't think much of this film. I don't think this is going to be a great experience. That's my expectation, but I will walk into this with an open mind, say, okay, show me what you got, Zach. All right. Same way I did the first time. Again, I just don't have very high hopes for this thing whatsoever. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.